Okay, so I feel like I introduce every Wednesday night shir like this. Reminder: the title is Chumash Exploration. Okay, which means that we don't always have stuff like fully prepared. This is like us exploring it, and especially this week, I changed plans like 45 minutes ago or like half an hour ago. Slight plans, not a total change. And so I'm going to sketch our goals here, and then we'll see where it takes us. Okay, so the goal is like this: is I'm always intrigued by like what the Torah B'chsav, what the written Torah presents about like each of the the people, as opposed to like what we know from Torah B'al from Midrashim. So like we talked about this briefly like in Bereshis. I'm still disturbed by the fact that with Abraham, almost no background is given. Suddenly just God talks to him, So with Moshe Rabbeinu, we have his birth, obviously, which is important. And then we have Moshe Rabbeinu having the conversation with Hashem at the burning bush. But what I was interested in this year was all the stuff that happens in between. It's like, what are the actions that are highlighted in Moshe Rabbeinu between the time that he becomes an actor, like an actual like person who's doing stuff, not just a baby, until he speaks to Hashem at the burning bush, right? So I noticed, and I don't think it's like a chiddush or anything like that. I noticed that there are 3 episodes, 3 incidents, and all of them involve him intervening for some like justice related purpose. Okay, so what the sketch here for the plan for tonight is I want to go through the psukim, and I want to go through so the original plan was good. I had a whole suite of meforshim lined up. And then like right before shir, I saw that the Abravanel has a really good flowing narrative. And I thought to myself, oh, Chaim Zifkin, who's not here, loves the Abravanel so much, I'll make the whole shir about the Abravanel. So we might still dabble into other meforshim, but I kind of want to focus on the Abravanel because he gives a whole narrative. Okay. And what I want to do, just so we have like an objective oriented thing, I want to make a list of the midos or like the positive qualities of Moshe that we see from like all the episodes. And so we'll like have that as our like note thing. And then here's the tantalizing cherry on top. I have what I think is a big, I don't even want to call it a chiddush because it's not even fully formed yet. I have like a possible like new approach for unifying the narrative. Okay. Which I'm going to try floating at the end. Okay. See what happens. Oh, is that him? Sounds like him.
Yeah. I was told it's appropriate to bring my dinner.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I just went through the whole intro. So I'm gonna pause the recording and then tell you the whole intro again. Pause the recording. Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, the general, hold on, pause recording, not the record button. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's start by going through the psukim, okay? And we're gonna start with 2:11. This is like after Moshe grows up, okay? So Vayhi, and I want to give one, not disclaimer, one like parameter drawing thing. There's a lot of Torah written about the justification that Moshe had for intervening in these cases. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, like when he kills the Mitzri, what was his, how was he allowed to kill the Mitzri? Like what crime was the Mitzri like, guilty of?
Why do we assume that he was allowed?
That's a good question also. So because there's so much stuff there and, or let's say like, similarly, like there's a lot of stuff with the saving Yisro's daughters or Ruel's daughters from the well. We could go very, very much into that. I kind of want to just walk into this, since we're focusing on Moshe and his perfections, I want to assume that Moshe Rabbeinu is justified, okay? And we'll only go into like what he saw insofar as it reveals stuff about his own mitos, okay? Like I don't want to get bogged down in all the theories about why he did what he did. No, sorry, in terms of like what they were guilty of, okay? Okay, so let's start with the psukim here. So Shemos 2:11. Vayhi bayamim hahem, and it was in those days. Vayigdal Moshe grew up. Vayitze alechav. Oh, sorry, one more mission. Okay. Again, because of Rabbi Zimmer's imagination share, I have been trying to incorporate this into my learning of like really painting a vivid picture of what's going on in real world terms as much as we can, because I think that is part of the design. Okay, so it was in those days. Vayigdal Moshe grew up. Vayitze el echav, and he went out to his brethren. Vayar b'siv losam, and he saw their. I would translate as burdens. How do they translate in the article there?
Burdens.
Burdens. Okay, there you go. Yeah. His what?
He's all their labors.
Labors. Okay, fine. Yeah, it could be like their impositions, like the things that were imposed upon them. Which in which case labors would be a good translation. Vayar ish mitzri make ish ivri me'achav, and he saw an Egyptian man striking a Hebrew man of his brethren. Okay. As we go through this, by the way, if you have questions, we can say the questions. But again, we're going to be kind of focusing on the macro here. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one. Was this like such a noteworthy thing? I thought they were slaves.
Okay,
so
good question. So that is what we're going to see in some of the meforshim here. Okay, so that's a good question. Like the so what question. Yeah.
I was like, interesting just to point out that like it seems possible that Moshe grew up, even though he grew up in Paro's palace, he grew up knowing that he was a Jew.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. And there's theories about how that came to be. I think the Abravanel quickly summarizes the theories.
Probably that's probably a big one.
Oh yeah, it's
probably
true.
back then, like nobody.
Yeah,
else
unless you take Chazal literally that Moshe was born already with a bris. Yeah. Either way. Okay, Vayithin. I mean, the easiest interpretation is that Yocheved told him because she virtually raised him, right?
I think Tech is still weaning.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and they weaned late back then.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Vayithin kovako. So he looked here and here, hither and thither. Vayar kienish, and he saw that there was no man. Vayach es hamitri, and he struck the Egyptian. Vayit menehu bachol, and he buried him in the sand. Okay. Plain shot is he killed him, right? It's like he buried him alive in the sand. Okay. Vayetze bayom hasheni, and he went out on the second day. Moshe, not the dead Egyptian. Vihine shnei anashim ivrim nitzim, and there were two Hebrew men quarreling or fighting. Vayomer la Rasha, and he said to the wicked one, Lama sake re'acha, why do you strike your friend? Again, this is an example, like meforshim go wild on like, why does he call him a Rasha? What were they fighting about? Etc. But we're not going to get into that. Vayomer, so he said, the guy who Moshe addressed said, Mi samcha le'ishar v'shofet aleinu, who made you into a man, an officer, a judge over us? Halahargeni ata omer, you're going to kill me? Kasher haragta es hamitri, like you killed that Egyptian. And again, they make a big deal about the ata omer, right? That the meforshim say he killed him by saying the Shem HaMeforash. Okay, we're not going to get into that either. Vayira Moshe vayomar. Moshe was afraid, and he said, "Achein, indeed, no hadavar. The matter is known." Vayishma Paro es hadavar hazeh, and Paro heard this matter. Vayivakesh lagos Moshe, and he wanted to kill Moshe. Vayivrach Moshe mipnei Pharaoh v'yeshiv be'eretz Midian v'yeshiv al be'er, and Moshe fled from before Paro, and he settled in the land of Midian, and he settled at the well.
Fast forward.
Well, this is a question of what the chronology is. Okay, yeah. Did you already do the Abravanel on this or not?
No.
Okay, all right, good. Okay. Ulkomi Midian, Sheva Banos, and to the priests of Midian, who were just suddenly meeting for the first time, there were 7 daughters. Vatavona, and they came. Vatidlena, and they I guess lowered their buckets. How do they translate Vatidlena? They drew. Okay. Yeah. Vatamalena es harhatim, and they filled the troughs. Lahashkos sonavihen, to water or to provide water for the flock of their father. Vayavohu haroim, and the shepherds came. Vayigarshum, and they drove them away. The shepherds drove away the daughters of the Kohen Midian. Vayacham Moshe, and Moshe arose. Vayoshian, and he saved them. Okay, right, which implies it's a weird phrase, right? He saved them. Drove them away does not imply that they were in danger. It just like whatever. So it implies that there was some sort of something save worthy going on here. Vayashk est sonam, and he watered their flock. Vatavona el Ru'el avihen, and they came to Ru'el their father. Now this is again, that's a whole other question. Who is Ru'el? Is he Yisro? Is he Yisro's father? Yeah. Okay, right. We're not going to get into that. Vayomer madua miharten bohayom, and he said, Ru'el said, why did you come back so quickly today? Vatomara, and they said, Ish Mitzri hitzilana mi'ad haroim. An Egyptian man saved us. Again, another lesson of Hatzalah, saved us from the shepherds. Vagam dalo dalalan, and he even drew water for us. Vayashka saton, and he watered the sheep.
Interesting that they knew he was Egyptian. They could tell enough that he was Egyptian, but they couldn't tell enough to know that he was Jewish. Somehow they could tell from the way that he looked and dressed that he had to be from that area, but they couldn't tell from the way that he looked and dressed that he was also specifically Jewish.
Right. Yeah. So plain shot is he was dressed as an Egyptian because, right, he was a sovereign prince of Egypt. Not really. He was a prince who was in Paro's house, and plain shot is he didn't wait for 40 years, right? Is he went straight here. And how are they going to see that he's Jewish? There was no such thing as Chazal say that they kept their clothing, the Jews kept their clothing, but he wouldn't have worn those. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's actually pause here for a second, okay? Because we have so just note in rapid succession these three events, okay? So very, very, like boom, 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 and then we've got like the narrative in between, and then the burning bush, okay? All right, so like I said, our goal here is going to be to make a list. Let me just actually share the whole screen here.
It never says in the shot that he was like royalty when he grew up or anything. I mean, it says that he was the son that bought Paro. It doesn't say like he was anything. From Paro
well, it
himself.
does. Right, it doesn't say that he was literally royalty, but it does say. Let's just look at the psukim here.
You will.
Yeah, just one second. Yeah, Michael, what do you want to say?
Have you ever heard of BHI?
BHI? No.
Black Hebrew Israelite?
Oh yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
They
those guys.
They particularly like this story to prove that since Moshe looked like an Egyptian in Egypt and Africa, Moses is in black.
Right. That's based on like falsehood, right? That they think the Egyptians were black, but the Egyptians were not black.
There was a southern kingdom in Egypt, the Nubia.
Right. But this was not part of the Southern Kingdom, though.
Yeah, there are actually even reliefs you can see. Like we actually have photographic evidence of like Egyptians conquering nations. No, it's true. They're conquering nations, and one of the nations they're conquering is an African one.
Right.
And he's visibly different than the way
you meant hieroglyphic evidence.
Hieroglyphic evidence.
Yeah, right.
It's not hieroglyphic though, because it's carved in. It's statuary evidence, I guess.
Yeah, but is there not a pasuk that says? No, you're right. It just says in pasuk Yud, "Vayigdal hayelav atvihu labas paro, vayhila labain." That's all we get there, right? That he was for her as a son, right? Yeah. But it does not. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't really say like his status. Yeah. Okay, fine. All right. So let us go with our. So what we're doing here is list. Sorry, hold on a second here. Our goal is to make a list of Moshe's virtues as illustrated in these three episodes. Okay. So, so again, the original plan was to go through a bunch of meforshim, but we're kind of abandoning that and we're going straight to the Abravanel. Okay. Because he turns out he summarizes a lot of what they say, and then we'll see how much time we have afterwards and then go into the other meforshim, or maybe I'll go into them as we look at it. Okay. Now, the first thing we're not going to read everything in the Abravanel. The first thing I have to mention, just because it's so controversial, and I'm going to say I'm not going to read it, but then you're going to be like, what? And then I'm going to end up reading it, and we're not going to dwell on it. Okay. Have you heard the theory of Moshe being the Ethiopian king?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Like, isn't there like a whole Medrash series about that?
There is. Yeah. So 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 you have heard of it then. Okay, good. So what I'm gonna do is I'll just post this in the chat. I wrote a thing about this. Yeah, but
is it pitting that against the Medrash that he was put in prison by Israel for 40 years?
Sorry, say it again. I've not heard of that one.
Medrash is, I don't know where I can find them per se, but I know I've definitely heard of them. Is that one is that he was an Ethiopian prince basically.
Yeah.
For 40 years, and then he went to Midian. The other ones he came to Midian for whatever reason. Yisro put him in prison for 40 years, and like Sipora would like bring him food and water. Like that was like their like meeting.
That's very interesting. I've not heard that one. Yeah.
I don't know how fits in with Shah,
So
not like he saved them.
yeah, so I wrote this article on Parshas Baha'aloscha, which I'll link it in the chat and in the video here. About who Moshe's wife was, right? That's the whole thing. Is the pasuk says it's Isha Kushis. Was that Tzipora or was that someone else? And there's a whole Re'ib and Kaspi who goes into this. Basically, the whole thing is like there's this book called Divrei Hayamim LaMoshe Rabbeinu or Shemos Rabbeinu, which I describe as like fan fiction about Moshe that they think is that the Rashbam thinks is like an actual true account. But good. So we don't need to go into that then. Okay, so that's what the first part of the Abravanel is on. And he says it's plausible And then he says that but the Torah wouldn't mention it because it's not important and it was a waste of time. He actually says it was a waste of time for Moshe to be there for 40 years. Yeah.
But at that point, I mean, this might just be like Kasha and Masa, right? But if he was in Ethiopia for 40 years,
yeah.
And then they think he's a Mitzri,
yeah, that's the other weird thing. It doesn't fit with that.
Change his dress at least.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a fugitive from the king of Egypt.
He would have Ethiopian clothing on, right? Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah. The other thing also is like Abravanel brings other arguments like it says he put Gershom on the camel along with Zipporah, but if Gershom was like 60 years old or whatever, then would he have fit on the camel? Or wait, no, it doesn't work that way. Hold on a second. He works out the chronology, so that ends up being weird that they're on the camel, but whatever.
Well,
anyway, Eliezer maybe it was Eliezer. Yeah.
Yeah. The difficult chronology is when the second kid is born, because when he comes back,
yes, right.
Punished at the well, and God tries to kill him, which is one of the weirdest stories.
Right.
I don't think
a lot of weird stuff. Yeah.
So much weird
Yeah. Okay. So let us actually start at what we're interested in here. Okay. So Yud Aleph in the Abravanel on the bottom. You have the thing. Okay. Yeah. All right. So Amar v'yatsa. Is it v'yitze? Yeah. V'yitze elechav. I just want to bring up the v'yitze elechav. So he went out to his brethren, and he looked at their burdens. Lefi Shemosha Tamid Davka Nafsho B'Yocheved Asher Gidalto Uvavaneha. Since Moshe's soul clung to Yocheved, who raised him. Okay, so he really does hold. It wasn't just like weaning; it was raising him, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming that the raising goes beyond the weaning. Uvavaneha, and what does that mean? And he clung to her, probably her children, but that's just like Miriam and Aaron. Okay, it is, right? I just don't know why he wouldn't just say Uva, Miriam and Aaron. Okay, whatever.
I actually wonder, is there anything that says that Moshe knew that they were his parents when they were raising him?
Oh yeah. I mean, not that says explicitly, but I mean, it's mashma from what he's saying that's the case. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. It could just be that he really
could be. It's very hard because he's using this to explain. I mean, what she's gonna tell him.
He said Asher Gidalto, right? That the reason that he clung to that his soul clung to Yocheved is
yeah,
because she raised him, not
right,
necessarily because she was his mother.
Right. Yeah. Bas Paro was his mother.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. The Afreshnis Gadel, and after he was raised, Yeda Mehem Amitas. He knew from them the truth of his situation. The Shehu Miyalde Ha'ivrim, and that. But it is interesting. He says after he was raised, after he grew up. After he grew up, right? It sounds like they didn't tell him at first, right? And it also doesn't say that they told him. It just says he knew, right? It says Mehem though. Mehem, yeah.
The puzzle says I don't know what the Hebrew is exactly, but the way it is here, it's the boy grew up, Moshe grew up, and Yocheved brought Moshe to Bat Para.
Yeah.
I mean, so it sounds like Moshe wasn't even with Bat Para for most of
he was
because childhood, at least he was shot. He was not.
No.
Right.
I think it is a fair read to say that Yocheved was nanny for
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds like
best nanny ever, right? I mean, I always say this that of all the parents in Torah, Amram and Yocheved had the best track record by far, right? Raising the three greatest Nevi'im, No. Yago kids had plenty of problems. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so
the worst thing that happened was that Aaron and Miriam spoke washing.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. So Vishumi Alde Ivrim, and he knew that he was one of the offspring of the Hebrews. Im Heyos Shabas Paro Gidalto Keben, even though Bas Paro raised him like a son, right? So he's got two mother figures. Okay, and for this reason, he went out to his Hebrew brethren who were outside of the city in the palaces of the king. Right. So this is what I mean by Rabbi Zimmer's approach here. Right. So you got a picture here. What happened? Okay. That's funny. You got a picture that. So he's raised in the king's palace, and he obviously knows that Yocheved is not not just a nanny, right? He finds out about his brethren at some point when he's already older, but he's never seen his brethren out there, and he has to go outside of the city, which he's probably not going to do if he's a royal guy. Yeah. Okay. And he leaves to go see them. Okay. Moshe yatsa me armon hamelucha hamalchus. He left from the palace of the king. V'yelach el echav ha'imrim, and he went to his brethren, the Hebrews. O el echav haleviim, or to his brethren, the Leviim.
That runs into multiple issues.
Yeah. So main issue being that the Leviim were not enslaved, right?
Yeah.
According to Chazal. Yeah.
And then also, according to Chazal, there doesn't bear more than me.
Right. That's also true. Yeah. Also, were the Levim living in a separate place?
So they were technically held for like
That's yeah, right.
Although it was interesting because Keith and I were trying to figure out like where Moshe when did he have all these years
Yeah.
Abraham, and he like knew the ideas from Abraham, then he like kind of like just sat and did his own thing. Or if according to Abravanel, he went out to see his brothers, like the Levim, like Abravanel said, like the Levim spent their time learning. And
Right. I mean, I always assumed he got it from the Levim who were his parents. You know.
Well, I guess if he did live with them, I was thinking that he lived in Pharaoh's palace. But if he lived with his mother,
Right.
Well, that was only for a couple of years or so.
It's unclear how long it was. You know, it seems like it was for until he grew up, right? According to Abravanel, yeah, not just till he was weaned. And Moshe definitely was very advanced for his age.
Yeah.
So he's saying, like, you know, parent-teacher conference with Yochanan and Amram. Your son is very advanced for his age. But yeah, he, you know, I assume that he got educated by them. Okay, anyway, or his brothers the Levim, o hayu echav, mamish mikrove Amram v'Yocheved, or his actual, like, not literal brothers, but like his blood relatives in from Amram and Yocheved. Ki ivrim bichlal nikraim achim. Ivrim in general are called brothers. Shnemar, as it says, ulachicha lo sashich. You shall not charge interest from your brothers. Lo yagos esreehu v'esachiv. You should not oppress your fellow and your brother. Okay, fine. Moshe once Moshe had established in his intellect, v'yeda al nachon es avi ves imo v'hikir es achav, and he knew, I think, accurately his father and mother and recognized his brothers. Cham libo bekirbo. His heart burned in him, liros inyanam, to see their condition. Okay, right? So this is an interesting thing here. What would you call this trait here?
Radical empathy.
Well, so it's interesting here because let's contrast this with a couple other meforshim here, just because I think it's easy to project like specific qualities here, but the meforshim say different things. So Rashi says, "V'yar b'sivlosam nasan enav libo lios meitzar alehem." He set his eyes and heart to like feel pain with them. To me, that's like radical empathy, right? And then Sforno says also, "V'yar b'sivlosam." Nasan libo liros ba'oni echav, same thing. He set his heart and mind to see the affliction of his brethren. And then also it says v'yar ish mitzri maka ish ivri mechav umitzad ha'achava he's orally. Okay, we haven't gone there yet. Hold on just 1 second here. There's someone else. I think the Malbim. Yeah, Malbim says like this. V'yigdal Moshe v'yitze el echav yisaper mitzidkas Moshe ve'ech minu'urav hayubo kol hamalas sheba v'oram zacha l'chol kavod hazeh. So that's his intro. This is telling about the righteousness of Moshe and how from his youth, then he had all of these virtues which made him merit all this glory. Shagam shagadav b'beis melech, even though he was raised in the house of the king, v'Yisrael hayu az b'taklis hashiflus, and Israel was at the lowest levels. Lo histir panav mehem. He did not hide his eyes from his face from them. This is another midah. V'yitze alehem mitzad shem achim echav, and he went out to them because they were his brethren. Hefech miteva hanashim sheba'alosam legdula yisrachaku me'achem ha'anim v'ha'avyonim. This is the opposite of the people who, when they get into a position of prominence, they distance themselves from their brothers who are in a lowly position. Zos shenis. Secondly, or we're going to have to make a list. Secondly, Shira b'sivlosam, he saw their burdens. Hainu shehibit alzeh be'ein chemla, he looked upon them with a compassionate eye. V'libu alav davai, and his heart was despondent about them. Zos shlishis, third thing, Shira ish mitzri. Okay, we haven't gotten there yet. Okay, fine. So what are we seeing here? So we've got the empathy, right? Now, when you said radical empathy, what did you mean by radical?
It's not just like you felt bad from it.
Yeah.
But it's also that like he wanted to like be able to experience it firsthand. See, like he wanted to see it. He wanted to be
Okay.
there and like really.
Right. Okay, so that's what I was going to say something similar for the Abravanel. The fact that he says, Cham libo b'kibro liros inyanam, right? Now, I think inyanam is not able to be translated as their affliction. I think it's like he said before, like he says, amitas inyano, like their condition, right? So I think there is a let's say here, it's a type of curiosity, but how would we characterize it? Curiosity, but it's tied to what you're saying of like to see firsthand their suffering.
Well, like curiosity on the fact that he like, doesn't want to ignore, but he wants to know what's happening. I guess.
Right. So
He doesn't
curiosity.
want to be like,
He's only running away. Also.
Right.
can you separate yourself in the distance?
No, I know what you're thinking of. Like breaking identification, but I don't know. There's better.
Yeah, sort of like
Better
he doesn't
term.
want to be like reverse. He wants to
Right.
associate with-
Yeah. I'm trying to find a way to capture just the intellectual virtue of this, and then differentiate from the midos virtue, right? To see
Injustice.
firsthand. Yeah, to see. Well, their condition firsthand. Let's just describe it, and then we'll go to this. And look, I'll give you an example of this, right? So again, I know I bring this up a lot, but because it was a powerful experience. But when my brother went to investigate the genocides, so he didn't just want to read about the genocides. He wanted to go to Rwanda and like see and talk to the people who this affected, and then go to Armenia and talk to them, and then go to Poland and Germany and talk to them. It's different than just an intellectual curiosity. He wants to like get the most accurate information possible from the people who this affected,
Like he got not really metaphorically into the pit, but like literally into the pit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I don't know what to call this quality, but we'll just list it here.
Meaning, like, you're saying it's more than curiosity. Like he's doing an actual investigation into.
Yeah, investigative curiosity. Okay, right? Yeah. Right. So and to me, that's an intellectual virtue. Okay.
Is empathy not intellectual?
Empathy is not intellectual virtue. Empathy is a midos virtue, right?
You can have empathy from here, but he's not doing that. He's going.
All right. So then empathy. Now I think we have to divide the empathy into several kinds, right? So the interesting thing is that it seems like part of the empathy is related to the fact that he is related to these people, right? So it's not. It's so it's interesting thing that it's not. And this is kind of what I wanted to like explore. I don't think we see Moshe's human empathy here. That we don't see until he saves the Benos Reuel, right? So this is empathy because they are his brethren.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's what everybody seems to be saying also.
Yeah.
Everybody's focusing on like the achiv.
Right. And it says he went out to see Echav, right?
To be with his brother. And the Abravanel gives what, like 3 different explanations of what achiv means here, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, then we have what the Malvim said about the fact that he is,
Just add on to that is that the 3 levels he gives is Ivrim, and then Halavim, and then like his actual blood relative, like his Krogan.
right.
So like it's interesting that he's kind of like he's I think that's what he's saying. He's capitalizing on that point and saying that this was a din of like closeness.
Yeah, right. Getting closer and closer. Okay.
Right.
So
And,
then-
and I think he's making a spectrum that within the context,
Right.
it makes sense to say achiv, the Jews, because they're the ones
Right.
enslaved. But in terms of actual achiv, he eventually gets to Amram and Miriam.
Right. Correct. Yeah. And you have it. Okay. So then I think there's another thing also. I think this is a separate mita that is highlighted by the Abravanel. Okay, which sounds like a modern term and it might elicit a chuckle. Is he's a person who goes out of his comfort zone. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what was emphasized by the fact that he left the palace and the city,
Yeah.
despite being raised there and being like a prince. Yeah. Okay. Right. Then there's the fact. What did the Malbim say? The Malbim said one more thing. The Malbim said that he did not disassociate from them because of their lowliness and because of his prominence. So that's not empathy either. That's something different, right? I mean, it could be empathy could be the thing that ties you there. But what would you say here is what do you call it when you? Maybe it helps to say both of them, right? What would you call a guy who distances himself from people when he gets prominence, you know? And then there's people like remember their humble origins, and right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of
I know. I don't know if there's a good words for these. Yeah, we need
Well,
yeah,
I
or
think
term phrase.
it
Yeah.
illustrates an immunity to social norms. Like growing up in the house of Paro with a bunch of slaves serving you, you should
Right.
naturally say this is the way of things. But he
Right.
determined on his own that was wrong, and he wanted to investigate it further.
Right. Yeah. So maybe there's multiple qualities here, because I was thinking from a slightly different angle, which is that like if you are a member of a low class and you get a lucky break, like, you know, being raised by the, you know, in the king's palace, you don't like, it taints the purity of your position to think of yourself as like a member of that low class. Like, again, like classic examples, I mean, like either Hitler or Voldemort, you know, like, you know, if you are what was it? If you know, Hitler was not blonde hair, blue eyed, right? Voldemort was not pure blood, you know, he was a half blood, right? So so people want to downplay that aspect of themselves because of their prominence, you know, and like deny the fact that they're associated with that. And someone who's willing to say like, no, these are my people, this is where I came from. What do you call this? Yeah, I think putting it in terms of status is good, right? So yeah, I like not consumed by status for now, right? Okay, yeah, right, okay, good. Then we had, so I'm reading through his brethren. Is that it, or was there one more thing that the Malbim said? Oh yeah, Michael, repeat what you said again. Yeah, yours was different.
I was saying, not consumed. I was saying that it shows an immunity to social norms.
Yeah.
That he ought to, normally we would think, be comfortable with his position in the palace, but he didn't care that everyone said you're entitled to this.
Okay,
and,
so I think, okay, good. So
I just wanted to make one other point that from Rabbi Fox here.
Yeah.
He illustrated a few seconds before this how Moshe's development, his small little adventure in Mitzrayim, mirrors Batya's experience with him. That she saw him, identified as a Jew, but ignored her father's commandments and said, I'm going to protect this one.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, that is very, very, very good. Right. So it's possible that he got these from Bas Paro also, right? Yeah.
I think verses are very much drawing that parallel.
Yeah, that's really good. By the way, just a side plug, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs has a great essay on the 6 or the 7 women who made Moshe who he is, I
feel like I can think of maybe 5.
Well, what was it me? Bas Paro, Yocheved, Miriam, Zipporah, and Shifra and Pua.
Are Shifra and Pua different than Yocheved and Miriam?
According to the Psukim.
Okay.
Damn. Yeah.
It's not clear.
Yeah. Right. I think that's them.
So 4 to 6.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But yeah, I recommend that essay. I can make a PDF if anyone's interested, because I have it in a book.
Obviously, it's taking Washington, but he said that that God made him for Shifra and Pua, like that ends up with Moshe.
Yeah.
Like they're linked.
Could be. Okay. Was there anything else in the Malbim here? Oh, that's the other thing also. Lo histir panav mehem. So I think that's another thing, which is, it might be related to the status thing, but there is a thing where you don't, like, hiding your face. I bet he used that phrase intentionally, right? Because Moshe hid his face by God, but not with this. There is a thing of like not wanting to look at your humble origins, right? I think that's what I was saying also, right? Is wasn't resistant to looking at his humble origins. Okay. Meaning like I came from I come from a people of slaves.
It almost seems like 5 and 6 are like parts of 4, no?
Yeah. So this I want to add here. Not consumed by a status to the point where he dissociated from the Jews. I guess that is 6 also. Yeah, all right, fine. Yeah, but immunity to social norms, though, Michael was saying, to the point where he went out of the palace, right? Which is unheard of back then. Yeah, Oren?
As to, I guess, number 4.
Yeah.
He was in Midian. It seems like he was still presenting as an Egyptian, though.
Yeah, but that's also, you can't blame him because he fled.
Okay.
Like he's, yeah. Okay. So, all right. So let's go on to Abravanel. Oh, yeah.
Sounds like the Hester Punim. First of all, it's interesting that they use that term to say that he didn't engage in Hester Punim. That seems sort of like the negative version of investigative curiosity to see firsthand. Meaning he doesn't turn away from bad things; he investigates. But Hester Punim would be, I don't need to look at this. I'm in a
Yeah, right. Yeah. So let me put here, not Hester Punim. Okay, yeah. By the way, when I saw some people posted in the chat, I gotta, again, I know not everyone knows my rules. I don't read the chat, so you could vocalize it, or someone else could read the chat out loud, but I'm not gonna look at the chat. It's too annoying. Okay. All right. Back to the Abravanel. Okay. So then he says like this: V'tiksar nafsho ba'alam. New paragraph. His soul was short, but I think it means that he was like distraught, right, by their toiling. V'nischaber lazeh shara ish mitzri make ish ivri me'achav. He saw, especially when he saw an Egyptian man strike a Hebrew man, al lo chamas b'kapav, who didn't do anything wrong. He's or lahakoso, and that's why he was aroused to strike him. Okay, right. So this is where we see like the sensitivity to injustice, right? Is intolerance of injustice, right? That's the Egyptian striking a Hebrew for no reason. Yeah.
Well, you could just read that as like empathy.
No, not according to the Abravanel, right? Because he says al lo chamas b'kapav when he didn't do anything wrong. V'lachein hisor l'hakoso.
Empathy doesn't automatically mean like get yourself involved.
Not empathy. The better word is solidarity, I guess, with like fellow Jews. Like you could still read that game.
But then why does it? Why does he say? Why does he say that he saw that? He says this, that this was. So he says 2 things. His soul was distraught at their toil. And in addition to this, Shira Ish Mitzri hitting him. He saw an Egyptian guy hitting him when the guy didn't do anything wrong. Like to me, that's like separate quality. Yeah. Okay. The Harav Avram ben Ezra appears v'yitze elachav hamitzri. This is a weird shot. Okay. The Ibn Ezra learns he went out to his brethren, the Egyptians. Okay. Why? V'hinei pirshu kain. He explained this because it says he saw their sivlosam. Kilafi dato, according to the Ibn Ezra, has sivlus shav el hamitri hapoel oso. Sivlus means refers to the burdens that the Egyptians enacted. Okay, so in other words, Ibn Ezra is forced to say this based on his grammatical understanding. Okay, but then he says, don't think that that's like necessary. Ki hu lifamim shav el hapoel ulifamim el hapoel. Oh, fine. So he says grammatically works out, and he says it's also improbable that the pasuk would use the term brother for an Egyptian, and not for any other nation. So it's weird that the only time you see people called brethren are either other Jews or the Edomites, who like are our brethren. But here's the interesting thing: if you did go according to Ibn Ezra, I think you would see another midah also. What would it mean to say that he went out to go see the Egyptians, and assuming everything else is true, like that the Abravanel said? What would that show?
That he went to talk to other Egyptians.
Well, he went to see them, right? But what would it show that he went out to go see them?
Self-investigation and not relying on others on word of mouth of what's going on. Meaning it's one thing to like sit in the palace and people tell you, oh yeah, this is what's happening in the world. It's another thing to like go out and like see what's happening. See if his information is correct.
Okay, so you could say it's subsumed under the just the first quality that we said here, which is investigation firsthand. But what added quality will we see if it's talking about the Egyptians? And again, he knows he's a Jew. He's raised in the Egyptian palace, right, by Egyptian, and he knows that the Egyptians are enslaving the Jews.
Wouldn't it just kind of bolster number 6?
It would.
If he considered the Egyptians his brother, then he's going against them even because they're.
Okay, that's also true, right? It would also bolster number 6.
You're looking for like slavery in a way.
Well,
Or like the mental fortitude to like go against the grain, basically.
yeah. So you're right. Because I think it see, to me it partakes of 6 and it partakes of 5. But like the analogy here is like this: is like, let's say like you are a German in Nazi Germany who hears about what the Nazis are doing, and you kind of you want to turn a blind eye to what your own people are doing. But it says something if you actually go out there and you see what are my people doing, and you're willing to face that evil. Like, to me, it partakes of these qualities, but it feels like it's a different thing, like what is it that we're, or much tamer analogy. There used to be a show on called Undercover Boss, right? So like where in some of these cases, then it's like there's really, really bad conditions in their companies, and like they go and they want to like actually like see what's going on firsthand, and they're willing to face like the evil that their own like actions are perpetuating in a way. So I'm just gonna write this here according to Ibn Ezra. I'll call you a second, Michael. To Ibn Ezra, willingness to look at the evil being done by his Egyptian brethren. Okay. Yeah, Michael.
I wanted to say something as well in terms of the willingness, not with the Ibn Ezra interpretation. I don't actually think it's a good interpretation, just because it later says Ish Ivri Me'achav, but whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Look, he knows grammar better than me. I completely concede. But it reminded me of the Batman Begins quote, where he says, "Training is nothing, will is everything."
Yeah.
Moshe is illustrating here strong will. That,
right.
Like, despite all of these concerns, genuine issues, like he's breaking laws, he's killing an Egyptian citizen, he
right.
has the will to act, to actually fix injustice.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right. Yeah, it's empathizing, and sympathizing is not enough. Right. Yeah. Okay.
I was gonna say that this is like Levi, like when Levi killed their own kind after the sin of the golden calf.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Watch out for Levium, we will kill our cousins.
Yeah. Okay. So putting your money where your mouth is, putting your sword where your ideas are. Okay. Ready for the second pasuk? That was all one pasuk, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So then he says like this. Oh no, actually this is good. Moshe Yivada kihu hika as a mystery. So Moshe was worried that it would become known that he struck the Egyptian. That's why he looked here and there. Okay. Ladas im yesh adam sheroe also, to know if there's a person who's seeing him. The kasher ra'a, I mean, that's also a quality, right? Is
even if you're doing the right thing, it's what's it called? Morozai, basically. Oh, in a sense.
A premeditated act.
Yeah, right. Like practicality is that right? Is that he's like minimizing consequences, potential consequences of his risky act, right? Because it is a risky act, right? Killing someone is rarely not a risky act. I wouldn't. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. My first year in teaching high school, I took the policy of not answering questions about my background, but I did plant the rumor that I used to be an assassin. I think some gullible kids, so I would like plant little things like that. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. And I made it into a thing of like before I converted, yeah. Okay. Yeah, obviously. All right.
That makes it all so much better.
Yeah, it does. Right. Yeah. When he saw that there was no person looking and witnessing what he was doing, except for the guy who was stricken, foreshadowing, he cut as a mitzri, then he struck the mitzri, and he hit him in the sand, yargishu bo shenerag, so that people would not sense that the guy died, right? Like if they just see the guy on the floor, they'll sense it. Okay. Shim hayanir, yeah. Shim hayanir harag al pnei asad. If he was just like lying there on the field, hayumavakshin gole damo. So then the blood redeemers would rise up, and look after the rotzeach, the murderer. This also shows the perfection of the character of the master of the prophets and his constitution and his bravery, right? So courage, bravery is a big thing. This is a big act, right? So like, and this could be subsumed under 8, but I think 8 is, like Michael's saying, shows like a lot of, is reflected in a lot of stuff. But to go and actually kill someone who is doing an injustice, that's like, that takes guts.
There's also like, what's it called? That's like the halacha by a king in general, right? He can just like,
yeah,
he has like that power. Like,
right. But it doesn't take as much guts if you're the king.
True.
Right. It takes guts if you're a Egyptian prince. Yeah. Yeah. Which the Egyptian princes don't have this authority, right? And that's clear from the Hebrew who objects to him says, who do you think you are to do this? If they had the right to do this, then he wouldn't have said that. Yeah, Oren?
To strengthen the practicality point.
Yeah.
It also, maybe you said it, I read this in here, but also says that by like you look.
Yeah. That's where we're getting it from.
Also,
yeah.
To go against this point, then.
Yeah.
Towards number 10, especially, this seems very like impulsive.
Okay. So the Abravanel is going to address that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, Michael.
I just wanted to comment. It's interesting that the Abravanel is referencing that Moshe is king of Nevi'im, because the Rambam, I think in the Morah, describes the Navi as being so consumed with his vision, what he sees to be right, that he's compelled to act. So he's illustrating that Moshe is wrong. I'm going to murder this guy and hide it because
execute. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Oh, sorry. I skipped halfway. Oh, sorry. I stopped halfway. Im heos katon hashanim. Okay. So this is another thing. Even though he was young in years, misariv im hamitzrim, and was like had assimilated with the Egyptians in terms of like his identity. Lo nasa libo elbon achi echav v'amalan. I don't know exactly what this phrase means. Like I know elbon means like an insult, and nasa libo is like lifting his heart. But I think it means that he did not let that prevent him from like avenging his or intervening for his brothers who were oppressed. The Sikin nafsho b'harigos hamitzri linkom nikamas b'nei Israel, and he endangered his soul in order to enact justice for b'nei Israel against the Egyptian. Right. So it's clear to bravery to risk his life to save another. Yeah.
Also the first Navi to kill someone.
Is he the first Navi to kill someone? That's an interesting question. Never thought about that.
Oh no! I'm from public kings and stuff.
That's true. Yeah. If you say that Cain got nevuah, right? I mean, he does talk to God afterwards. But
what was it? I saw somewhere like were they actually people yet or something?
Oh, right, because this is a chase with his first kid that was.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. That's I give you on that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now this is my favorite part in this paragraph here. V'yesh meforshim v'yivin kovacho v'yarkienish. There are those who say that when he looks here and there, it doesn't mean that he was looking out for people, but rather shechasha Moshe machshavos is that he looked here and here in his mind. Okay, what does that mean?
It literally says,
let's read his explanation and see what he says. Okay, mitzad echad, on the one hand, ra'ah she'ein roy lasos. He saw that this was not proper to do. Okay. Kimalo ulatzarahi. What do I have to be involved in this guy's problems? Okay, right? V'ulai she'amitri yaragosa. Maybe the mitri is going to kill him, right? It's a risk. Umitzad acher, but on another side, ra'a sheha'adam ha'mu'ula habit el amal lu yuchal. On the other hand, he saw that a person who is in a position of stature, a privileged position, cannot. This is a phrase from Chavakot, cannot look at injustice, meaning he can't see injustice and then not do anything about it. Okay. And in a place where there are no men, he should strive to be a man. Okay. That's in Pirkei Avos. V'zehu amram, this is what it means. Vayifin ko vacho. This is what it means when it says he looked here and there. These are the two angles that he saw. mean, he looked at both sides of the issue. Now, if you're taking that, what quality does that show? That he looked at, on the one hand, he said like I don't got to do this. This is not my responsibility. But then he looked on the other side.
Reason, kind of.
So he did. It is true that he reasoned it out. I think so. You could say that this is an intellectual thing, that he like weighed the possibilities.
The ability to overcome a internal conflict.
Yeah, I was thinking that, right? I was thinking more it was an emotional thing. Is that he? So not like Michael was saying. I mean, what Michael's saying is possible as well, but not like Michael is saying that he was so moved to act that he was single-mindedly going here. But no, he was in conflict. He was in personal conflict, but he overcame his personal reservations and did what is right instead of what is easy. Yeah.
Would that be like ethical reasoning?
It was ethical reasoning. That's true. Yeah. So we'll list that as well, right? Engaged in what is this? Okay, yeah, I guess ethical reasoning, right? Ethical reasoning,
When you weigh this out.
right? Not just impulsivity. Yeah, maybe it wasn't the Abravanel. Someone else said that the fact that he like took precautions means that he wasn't being impulsive, and according to this shot, it definitely is not being impulsive. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how you can say that he wasn't literally looking this way and that. It literally says that he was looking.
Wait,
to see if there was no man.
V'yarki ein ish rotzlomar shelo yikare Moshe ish v'amitz libo b'giborim im lo sheyinkom demei achiv. Okay. So this might be a little bit of drasha. And he saw that there was no man. What does this mean? That he saw that Moshe saw that he would not be called. He wouldn't rise to the level of being a man, meaning an amitz libo b'giborim, meaning someone who's courageous and like standing up for what's right. Im lotion yinkom demei achiv, if he didn't do this. V'lachein v'yach as a mitzri. So he's saying, again, he's going with this phrase of Chazal, when in a place where there are no men, strive to be a man. So he saw that I would not be like a man of justice, a man of like empathy, a man of whatever, of like, saving people from their oppressors if I didn't do this. I think it's a bit of a drushy thing, but it's a good drush. It's not shot.
Why can't you use that drush to say that he looked around and saw that there was no man and therefore he was man?
Someone else says that. That there's someone else who says that.
It's like he saw that he had to be the man when you can just simply say that Shot says there was no other man there, so he had to be the man.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rashi says he saw in the future, and so there's no. Yeah. We're not going to go there.
There's no good people.
Well, I think this is also saying that he was in an unjust land where this cruelty would not be resolved unless he, the person that's sitting there, actually did something.
Correct. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to find here.
Yeah, it's weird. The water was weird here.
Oh, you know who said it? It was the Netziv, who I did not include in my thing. I was looking at that when I had to go. So look at what the Netziv says.
He won't be called a man. Somebody's saying.
Yeah. Yeah. If you didn't stand up for this, then you wouldn't be a man. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why you simply can't just take that drusha and then say like what we're saying. It's weird.
Physically look.
No. He looked. He said that the drusha says when in a place where there are no men, be a man.
Yeah.
Right? So he looked. He saw there were no men. Like Michael's saying, it was an unjust system, right? There was nobody there that was gonna protect this guy.
Yeah.
So he was being a man.
Yeah. So this is what the Netziv says. So he says like this. V'yarki ein ish. He saw that there was no man. Lahagid lefanav as evil, to tell the injustice to. Why? Ki kulam atzeres bogdim v'sonei Israel. All of them were a band of traitors, and they were haters of the Jews. So in other words, he couldn't tell like another adult, right? Like he couldn't find another Egyptian because they would not do anything, and they would love to see the fact that this Jew is being beaten. And v'yach as a mitzri. So he's applying the same statement of Chazal, but to saying that there was no one else who would intervene. Yeah.
I like that.
I guess the only issue is that it says afterwards, well, two things. One, he hit him in the sand so no one would come after him and see if someone was dead.
Yeah. So, but what's wrong with that?
Well, if there were people there, then they would see.
Oh, you mean
if he just saw, he looked around and he saw a bunch of Egyptians, they're not going to do anything.
Oh, right. Correct. You're saying that you still have to say that there were physically no people around. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I think that is important.
And I think you can read both. I think both are implied.
on the spot.
No,
Right.
I'm saying just the work. It's just the
Right.
I've never actually been there.
Correct. Yeah. That's a good point. Right.
People did find that.
That's
They didn't have forensics, so somebody was.
Well, right. Well, that's what we're gonna see in a second. Yeah. That's what we're gonna see in a second. Yeah. Michael, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying that it's a fair read to say that Moshe is doing both. He's evaluating the civilization,
Right.
and saying this is evil, and also there's nobody here, so let's fix this evil.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So now let's go on to the second incident. Oh, or not? Is it?
Write down that he beat the man.
He beat the man. Yeah.
He beat the man.
Okay.
Also, was that a quote from Chazal?
Yeah, from Pirkei Avos.
That's awesome.
He
What do you
beat the
think of
man
your
in a
book?
place where there are no men. Try to be a man.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It is good. Yeah.
Also, it's interesting. I was reading in this past week's Torah, right,
Yeah.
that on his deathbed, David tells like a whole bunch of things to Shlomo, and one of them is he says, "Become a man."
Yeah. It's good. Yeah. Well, an interesting thing here, which this would be a whole other topic, but just based on this is if you want to say the Torah's idea of machismo is standing up for the oppressed and intervening, and even when it's at risk to yourself, right? That's like how literally these meforshim are applying it, Yeah.
So we should be Batman.
You should be Batman, yeah. Yeah. Moshe has no jurisdiction. He'll find him. All right. V'hinei lo chashav Moshe she'ivri hamuka yigale hadavar. All right. So this is answering your question, Oren, is how did people find out?
Yeah.
So I'm going to skip through this because I don't think this is relevant to our thing. But basically, there was only one witness, which is the Jew who Moshe saved, right? And that guy told on him, right? Yeah. But there is a point here that we do need to look at. Check out. Well, you don't have this, so you can't check it out. The Avram ben Rama makes this beautiful point. Okay, where are we?
As a tendency to
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's always good when someone reads it or
Yeah. Okay. Avram ben Rama says like this. I really like this point. He's bonin b'kinaso alav Hashem. So contemplate Moshe's zeal. I don't like the word zeal. His devotion to his integrity, right? His devotion to his values. Okay. Al ha'oshek, against injustice. Eich lo sara mimenu, how he didn't deviate from it. Lo naso gahor, and he didn't recoil mimena. Sorry. That's by the. Sorry. I'm jumping the gun. That's by the daughters of Ruel. There's someone else who says this point here. Was it the Malbim? Maybe it's the Malbim. Hold on, let's check the Malbim. Oh, we didn't do the Malbim on this also. Malbim was also good. So he says, Ish mitri maka ish ivri mechav shagam shagadal bein hamitrim, even though he was raised among the Egyptians, umisarev imaim, and he had mingled with them. Hayu kizarim beinav, they were like strangers in his eyes, right? Va'ish ha'ivri hamuka hirgish b'tzaraso mitachu echav atzma ubasaro. But this guy who was being beaten up, he felt like his real brother because he was his flesh and blood. Al hamake chara apo, and he was angry at the guy who was hitting. Shehu mitri mitachu mitri nivzav ushval bina, because he was an Egyptian who was like despicable in his eyes. Okay, so he was anti-Egyptian. Uvzet ata kmiil kina al hikaso es echav hakashu beinav. Okay, fine. All right. Vayifen yisabra ki nosasa bo ruach eloki lishbor zro resha ulefesach b'nei tumurasa. Tamusa ulval tomar ki asa zeh shalobat. Oh, here's one who says he didn't do it impulsively. He says ulval tomar, so that you don't say ki asa zeh shalobat sichlo. Don't say that Moshe was acting not on his intelligence, rak mitoch kas, but just out of anger, immediate. V'zeh lo yishubach, and that's not praiseworthy. Alzeh amro shapana kovako liros im yesh ish ki asa b'mitun uv'ata sichlo. The fact that he was like took precautions meant that he was operating in the framework of his intellect and deliberation. V'yeda shish sakana b'davar im yivad al ish, and he knew that there'd be danger in the matter if he became known to anyone. So it's like, this was not a case of running into a burning building to save somebody where you're just doing it recklessly or like going on adrenaline, right? Not to say that those people are like bad, but they're not using their intellect to like weigh out, is this building just going to fall? Okay. So I guess I am saying they're bad. No, I don't know, whatever. Okay. So then he says in, this is the point I wanted to get to. So now this is the second incident with the guys, with the Hebrews. Even when he saw the pain of his brethren, Bichlaza lo nimna latseis biyom hasheni. Okay, so in other words, like this. He killed an Egyptian to save his brother. Now, what would you do if you did that? You would hide out in your house for until you know that the police aren't looking for the body, right? He went out the very next day to look out for his brethren again, right? So he was. So what do you call this? This is like there is a certain maybe tenacity is the wrong word, but this is the person who, let's say, is opposing the government, the Chinese government, right? And he gets thrown in jail, serves his term, then goes right out there again, and then protests the government again.
It shows true commitment.
Yeah, right.
It's not like, oh well, I murdered one guy, I made the world a little bit better, or I killed one bad guy.
Right, I'm Yosei, right?
Like, no, it's not done. There's still slavery. I gotta go see the next day, literally day 2.
Right. Even though he is. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's see what else he says here. Was V'yifin, right? Alzeh Amar Ship. No, I read that already. V'yar v'hine shnei anashim ivrim nitzim hamatza hu aidei hakav zeh ha'avdal beino ben riv. Blah blah blah. He's explaining the words. Yomar larasha lama sake recha kishne reim shem b'matzor matzog yehavu zelazeh b'teva v'yasru zelazeh lo shei riv madam inam. Oh, so this is a different quality here. Okay, so he's saying like this. So he saw kishne reim, that two comrades, right, two friends, shem b'matzor matzog, who were in distress. Yehavu zelazeh b'teva. They should love each other naturally. V'yasru zelazeh, and help each other. Lo shei riv madam inam. Not that they should have quarreling with each other. I think this is supposed to be a bane. Hold on, I got to do my my duty here and send in a correction to Rabbi Novetsky before I forget. This was on Pasuk Yud Gimel. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Boon. Let me just do this. Shlach tikun.
Boonish.
Oops.
Actually, funny. I found a typo in the Vilna Shabbos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it says instead of Ubeis Shammai,
yeah,
Ubeis Hill, it says Ukase.
Ha.
With a chaf.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So for this reason, it was known that there is implanted in his soul a love of mishpat and tzedek between of each man between his fellow. All of this is necessary for leadership purposes, right? For people who are going to govern a nation. So you know what this is like? Who does this remind you of? Who is famous for seeing two people who are fighting and Aaron, right? So, right, seeing two people who are fighting and wanting to bring peace among them, So this is different. In the case of the Mitzri, it's someone abusing someone else. The Malbim is making it seem like this is a thing where he saw strife between people who should not have strife, and he wants to bring infighting. He wants to bring peace there, right?
When did Aaron do that?
That's what Chazal say in the Mishnah, right? There's not just an idle midrash. Yeah, this is the you should be IDLE. Yeah. It says you should be the disciples of Aaron, love peace and pursue peace. And then they also use this to explain why Klal Yisrael cried way more when Aaron died than when Moshe died, because Aaron was beloved among them because he was always making peace between them. So he he strove to bring peace between brethren, and that was strong leadership skills. I know the mom says that was one quality, but I think it's two qualities. Okay, let's actually, I know there's a lot more we could do. There's a lot more we could do. we're not going to be here all night. I'm just trying to think, should we move to wrap up? Okay, let's do a little bit more. I'm trying to think, should we do this? Should we go into this next week also? I mean, it's about Moshe Rabbeinu. We're gonna be talking about Moshe Rabbeinu for a while.
You can give any share and Dustin a view.
I wasn't planning on it, but
I just found it very interesting.
yeah, they are interesting. I've never looked into them.
Here's this part.
Yeah.
The constant
Like these, like,
contact.
two antagonists.
Like, yeah.
Right.
I
The
like minor characters, but they're like a big.
yeah. Right. Yeah. He talks about this here. Yeah.
Constantly thorns in the sides of
yeah.
like everybody.
Right. So let's do this. Let me reveal to you my theory because that way we could think about it, and then we'll decide whether to come back to this next time because we there's more to do on the fighting between the Hebrews and then there's the daughters of Ruel. Okay, so here's my theory. Okay, if you look at the Psukim, you have 3 incidents of Moshe stepping in to help an oppressor. Okay, to help the oppressed from the oppressor. Right. Okay, then you have Moshe naming his son Gershom. Amar Kiger Haisi Bears Nochriya, saying I'm a stranger in a strange land, which also shows, I think the Abravanel says big whoop, like what else would you be in a strange land, you know? But like I think there's another idea, which is that he is what is the whole thing the Torah says all the time is remember that you are a stranger and identifying like with the other, you know. So it could be that was Moshe was striving for. But here's my theory. Okay, how does the parak end? Parak ends with Vayehi bayamim harabim hahem vayamas melech mitzrayim vayanchu bnei Yisrael min ha'avoda. So in those days, after those many days, many years, right? The king of Egypt died, and bnei Yisrael groaned from the work. Vayizaku, and they cried out. Vatal shavasam el ha'elokim and avoda, and their outcry from the avoda went up to God. Vayishma Elokim es nakasam, and God heard their outcry. Vayizkor Elokim es briso, and God remembered his covenant es Abraham es Yitzchak es Yaakov. The covenant, or he remembered Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Vyar Elokim es bnei Israel v'yed Elokim, and God saw bnei Israel and he knew. So what am I going to say? What? He knew bnei Israel's suffering, which means he had hashgacha on them. What am I going to say? In light of everything we've said up until now, how does that change your reading of these 3 psukim?
Sounds like there's a mirroring between what God is doing
yes,
and Moshe is doing.
Exactly, right? There is a parallel between what God is doing and what Moshe is doing, right? So all these incidents are cases where Moshe saw suffering and then intervened. And then it says that God saw suffering and intervened. Now, obviously, God's not doing it because of Moshe, both because it's God, and it doesn't say he's doing it because of Moshe, it says he's doing it because of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, right? So we can't take the parallel in that direction. But what can we say an idea from this parallel?
Moshe would be parallel.
Yes, right. Moshe, so the point is that Moshe is paralleling Midos HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And that therefore Moshe is the proper one to take Bnei Israel out of Mitzrayim because he follows in all these ways of God, of the Midos HaRachamim. Now, I've not seen this in any commentary. Okay, this is my theory, but I think it's an intriguing theory, you know. And it's, again, the fact that it's all neatly packaged into like one like chunk of psukim here, to me, like lends credence to it. Yeah.
What's the next parak open up with?
The next parak opens up with the bush, right?
Moshe made the rock.
Yeah.
So meaning it's a showing of like a bunch of deeds of Moshe, and then
Yeah.
showing how that's an emulation of God.
Yeah.
And the next thing is like he gets the dua.
Right. And by the way, and in the Nevuah, according to Rashi, is the Rashi who says for Ekia Asher Ekia, so when according to Rashi, when Moshe asked what name I should tell them, so what is God? So God says, I will be what I will be, which Rambam says means that God is an independent existence. Okay, but Rashi says the midrashic thing, Ekia Asher Ekia, imam batsarazo, asher imam b'shibut shar malchus. God says, I am with you in your suffering, right? Which is what Moshe Rabbeinu literally did, is going into suffering with them, right? And so, you know, there is parallels here as well. Yeah. Okay, fine. So I'm not guaranteeing that we're going to continue this next week, but I think I think this is an interesting derech, by the way, right? Is that, you know, I mean, we got 16, give or take, you know, midos that are exemplified in motion. I feel like this is kind of why I wanted to focus on this, is before this year, if I just said, what do you think of about when you think of Moshe Rabbeinu's greatness? You would probably say one of two things. What's Moshe's greatness? What would you say?
When?
Best prophet.
Best prophet,
Yeah.
or Okay, or Rabbeinu, right? Great teacher.
Um,
Or what's the only thing he's praised for?
Humility.
Is humility, right? Okay, those are the things Moshe is known for. I feel like Moshe's like standing up for justice and saving the oppressed doesn't get enough attention, but that is how he is introduced to us. So it's like that's the baseline for the character that Moshe is, which then all these other things, like he developed all these other qualities because he had a certain ethical perfection. Yeah, Michael.
I would just say that you're right. These verses are very efficiently expressing the justice you want. And I think that's also partly why Chazal say so humble. Like these are necessary prerequisites of the leader of the Jews that will take them out of this slavery. And in like 4 verses, we get 16 characters.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because if we don't continue this, I want to actually skip ahead to the Abravanel and read this for a second. Look at the Abravanel in the second paragraph of Tes Vav. So he summarizes what this whole incident was doing. He says, these 3 stories were juxtaposed. Rosalomar, meaning to say, killing the Egyptian, the 2 Hebrews fighting, Midian, and the daughters of Midian. After talking about Moshe being raised in the house of Paro, not because they all took place chronologically one after the other, but to show the level of Moshe and his perfections. He had a first-rate upbringing, right? Nizgado Rishona in the house of the Malchus that was to Paro. This is a theory that a lot of the meforshim have. Why was he raised in the house of Paro? So Moshe could basically gain like a regal manner and personality and like learn how to talk to kings. Asher hu mimashi amitz levavo, that would give his heart strength. The gadol es rucho, and give him good self-esteem. No, he gets all the good from that, but he doesn't get all the bad.
No. I mean, he seems to tell God that he's.
Fine, yeah. But when that's something different though, because when push comes to shove, he does not back away from talking to Paro. Yeah. Shenimshach lo mizeh heyos lev amit b'gevurim b'giborim lo yashu b'mnei kol v'habet el amel lo yuchal lo b'mitrayim v'gam lo b'midian shehaya ger uboreach ulamad mizeh shemoshe haya b'tivo utchunas tzadik tunachaso. We see from here that Moshe by nature and constitution was a tzaddik and a yashar and great of heart. These are the proper midos for a navi, and things that prepare him for nevuah in truth. So like that's purpose of saying all these stories. Yeah, Chaim?
I want to mention is that like through this I guess method. Right?
Yeah.
It makes Moshe, at least it made Moshe to be more relatable.
Yeah, definitely. I can't relate to his nevuah.
Right,
yeah.
Moshe, you think of his humility, which is something you can kind of like try to understand, like humility and how that, like all that, Then you think of nevuah and you're like, okay, I can't really relate to that in many ways. And then you think of like his leadership, and you can kind of like glean parts of it, but when you actually take apart like what was happening here, like I guess like Chazal and like the Rishonim are doing, then you kind of like understand like what put him in that position. Like,
definitely.
How did he get there?
Yeah, definitely. It makes him more relatable, and then not just on a theoretical emotional level, but you can actually draw inspiration from this. Like, I don't know how many instances you've had where you've had to like stand up and intervene for injustice. I don't know when my heart beats really, really fast, and it's a lonely experience, but like there is a real emotional impact of like, Moshe did this, like, I'm going to try to be like Moshe Rabbeinu here. It's like much easier to relate to that. In fact, I mean, this is my hang up. I've expressed this before. I love Sefer Shemos. Okay. And part of the reason why is I have such a hard time relating to the Avos. Like I love Bereshis from the first parak up until Avram,
You relate better to that?
Yeah, because that's universal ideas about humanity. And I can relate to that, Then the Avos seem like so lofty. Yaakov this year started to become actually more accessible to me.
So that happened to me like last year.
Yeah. But like this is very, you're right. Like Moshe Rabbeinu usually feels like completely out of our league. But like this is
it's also very easy to look at the story and say, yeah, he killed a man. Like that's a different level. That's a different. That's away from that. We're so like removed from that.
Exactly.
Look at like the mitos that led him to, not justify it, but led him to to be right in what he did.
Right. And look, and you could translate it. Obviously, we're hopefully not going to be in a situation where we have to kill people,
Right.
but like let's take the thing of two Jews fighting who should be getting along, and he's risking himself to go intervene, right? How often does it happen where like you have two friends who are like fighting with each other, and like you are risking like your own standing in the friendship by like intervening, but like you do it anyway because it's for the good of the friendship, a lot of good stuff you can have here. Yeah, Michael?
I just want to say, I think part of the reason that the Avos are harder to relate to than Moshe, because I think that's true, I echo it, is that the Avos didn't function like anyone we deal with because they separated from society. They were living like individuals. There were kingdoms around, but they were like avoiding them. Moshe is in the thick of it and trying to save a group of people, and that's closer to the position of a modern Jew. We have a people.
That's interesting.
We have to dive in.
Correct. That's another reason why I do like Sefer Shemos, because I can relate to, like you're saying, to the Jewish nation. And then even though I'm not a leader of the Jewish nation, we all have like our little circles of like influence, and like we represent Judaism and stuff. So like it's easier for me to relate to Moshe's leadership capacity in that sense than Avra. Like, I'll relate to Yaakov like starting a nation from his descendants. Like, that's really easy to relate to, like and look, Avram's even hard. Yitzchak's even harder because like, what is Yitzchak even like? So that's on my bucket list of like, find out how to relate to like the Avos and like gain from them in that way. But right now, like I'm content with Moshe. And yes, the answer is yes. Okay. All right. So let's stop for tonight. I have to announce, by the way, decision